Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Reporters here on France 24. Well, her death has sparked the biggest uprising against the Iranian regime since the Islamic Revolution more than 40 years ago. We're talking about Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Kurdish woman who died in police custody back in September after being arrested by the so-called morality police for violating the country's strict dress code for women. Well, the regime has responded with an iron fist to the protests, and now many demonstrators trying to escape the repression have fled to the Kurdistan region of neighbouring Iraq. There, they have found refuge and a place to organize against the Iranian regime. We have a report from Kevin Berg.
September 27th, 11:45 a.m. 11 days after the death in custody of Mahsa Amini, arrested in Tehran for improperly wearing a headscarf. Iranian Fatah missiles struck a Kurdish military base. It was the same scene a few days ago. This time it's Iranian suicide bombers that are striking. We are in northern Iraq, in Kurdistan, an autonomous region bordered by Iran, Turkey and Syria. The reason why Iran is shelling the region so harshly is because it's accusing the Kurdish armed factions of supporting the popular uprising currently taking place. Kurdistan sees Iranian demonstrators arriving almost daily, fleeing repression. Kurdistan is now a refuge for the new exiled of the revolution, but it's paying a heavy price. The man with the bloody face is Peshmerga commander Rabaz. This is just 3 days after the explosion. He was lucky this time.
After I was hit here, my friends came for me and took me out. My friend Mamzana was with me. He died in this attack.
In less than an hour, over 10 missiles fell on the military base and its men. 21 were injured and 10 were killed.
It's a Fatah 110, one of the most destructive missiles made by Iran, and that's the rest of the rockets from the attacks when they struck us.
There's no time to linger. The threat is never far.
For the past 2 days, we've seen the same drone above us. They're watching. And when they do that, they're looking for something bad. That is why we must leave. Iran thinks that if they attack us here, it will impact the protests inside Iran. They think it will discourage people from demonstrating. We have supported the demonstrations, and we'll never stop. We'll support them more and more. We'll give refuge to people who were injured in the protests and take care of them here.
18-year-old Adar is one of the protesters who fled Iran. This young Iranian of Kurdish origin has just joined the Peshmergas. A few days ago, he was a delivery man. Now, he's a soldier.
The day Mahsa Amini died, I couldn't sit still. I had to do something. I had to demonstrate. Because of her veil, the police killed her. She was our sister. We had to defend her.
He took to the streets with his friends and chanted slogans for women's freedom and against the regime, risking his life.
We chanted freedom for women's lives, Death to Khamenei. Then one day during a demonstration, I was arrested and I went to jail for 7 days. The policeman beat me with a baton every day and asked me to give information and be cooperative with them. They asked me to work as an undercover spy for the Iranian regime. I refused.
In Iran, criticizing the authorities can be punished by death. Adar was tortured.
When I was brought to the Secret Service, they used some kind of weed and chemical material to burn me. Within 15 minutes I was burned, but they continued for 4 hours. They burned me as much as they wanted.
Faced with the state's repression, more and more Iranians like Adar crossed the border to join the Kurdish commandos and bring down the regime. Among them were women determined to fight. Amongst these experienced commandos are 2 newcomers, 18-year-old Sadia and 25-year-old Noor, who are being trained in arms. Both are Iranian and wanted by the authorities for having taken part in the protests. They arrived 2 weeks ago and have to cover their faces in front of our cameras to protect their families who are still in Iran. In Iran, Noor was a student. She was about to go back to college when the protests began.
As a woman, I had no rights. I came here and they gave me a gun. Here I am a Peshmerga. I am here to defend the rights that I never had.
Like Noor, Sadia left her loved ones behind. It was a difficult decision with serious consequences.
Because I am here as a Peshmerga, my family is threatened and pressured. They are interrogated. They're asked, "Where is your daughter? What is she doing? You have to bring her to us. You have to bring her back." They talk to my family like that. They threaten my family. If they don't hand me over, they'll take my sister instead. I don't know what they would do to her if they took her. They would make her disappear.
Despite fear for the fate of their families, the girls train hard.
They're very disciplined. I want to be like them.
Sadia, injured in the leg after being hit with a baton, is worried. She gives all she can to keep up.
I want to accompany my friends to fight. They'll fight for our country. I want to be with them. I want to be part of this group.
The other more experienced girls train tirelessly in conditions that are close to reality. One exercise follows another, and the day always ends with a patriotic song. The fighters remove the scarves from their heads as a sign of solidarity with the women of Iran. Freedom and above all peace. That's what the families who have fled Iran are hoping for. They live in isolated, makeshift dwellings with only basic amenities. They do not take up arms, but resist in silence. Saeed is an artist, Wajiha a housewife. They fled Iran a week ago with their sons after being spotted at a protest.
She's afraid to speak because our family is under pressure from Iranian forces. That's why our faces are covered. We can't be exposed, or we'll put more pressure on our family in Iran. The regime there is worse than Al-Qaeda.
Terrified by the regime, she fled. Wajiha took time to open up to us.
There were a lot of girls protesting, fighting for their rights, and they were killed because of it. Iranian forces were killing them. There's too much injustice and mistreatment of women. They can't even go to the hairdresser or put makeup on. They have no rights. Women have no rights there. I'm very sad for them. I have no words.
Saeed and Wajiha fear reprisals and regularly check in with their families back in Iran.
How's your family?
Thank God they're fine, but from time to time, the forces come into the house and ask for me. Where is he? What's he doing? The family told me that the situation is really bad. A lot of young people are beaten and put in prison. 100 of them were arrested. Thank God you're not there. If you were there, you'd be in the worst situation.
Before we leave, Wajiha asks us to film her one last time from behind to avoid risking the lives of her loved ones. In the mountains that evening, we go back to Sadia and Noor, those who have taken up arms. These women camp in precarious conditions without any privacy. But for Noor and Sadia, it's just something they have to do.
Even though I'm just a civilian, my body isn't ready like those girls. When I look at them, I realize that I will get there, and that motivates me to keep training. Of course, this battle is for Kurdistan, but it's above all for all the women of this world. Women should have the same rights everywhere.
As they wait to return home to fight for their freedom, the women end this night like all the others, with a poem for Iran, their country.
دنگی بمب و هاجک بارانەکاندا خۆرەتاوی ئاواتێک هەڵات ئاواتێک کە ئەم نەتەوەیە چەندین ساڵە خەریکە خوێنی بۆ ئەڕێژێ ئاواتی سەربەخۆبوون و ڕزگاری لە چنگی ئەو دەوڵەتە داگیرکەرانە.
The poem is a symbol of the resistance of a handful of women fighting against the brutality of the Iranian regime.
And that was our report from journalist Kevin Berg. And that does it for this edition of Reporters. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.